Hello and welcome back to episode 6 of Doodle Empire Alternate Civilization. And I did want to go ahead and do one last Doodle Empire thing before maybe I go to bed, or maybe I start editing a few of these. But I recorded four 3 hours ago or something, 2 hours ago, maybe just an hour ago. And I want to continue. So yeah, we're doing 100 turns, or technically 99 because I went over. But yeah, starting off with the blue country, we have them splitting, and I think I'm just going to start making American states. I've given up trying to bring in alternate countries from other videos I've done, and we're just going to have the creation of Michigan. And something I've realized is that depending on when I release these videos, I might be talking about stuff in my other series that hasn't actually happened yet, because I'm very behind on editing and I'm too lazy. But anyway, enough of that. We see that Michigan goes ahead and I guess just releases here. I mean, I know this isn't part of normal Michigan, but there we go. We now have Michigan. Don't know what the capital is, don't care. Florida is going to small expand, and we see Florida continue to defeat whatever's left of the Yucatan country down here, which really shouldn't be the Yucatan Empire anymore and should just be the Yucatan country. As Florida is back on its rise to conquer its empire again. And then we go to the blue country, we see it large expand, and what we're going to see is the complete taken over on Michigan, as well up here, as the blue country invades the red country and manages to win a decisive war pretty easily, and they quickly take over a large portion of the red country's land, as they almost near the capital of the red country, as the red country is completely and utterly wrecked by this war. Frankly, I should have given this land over, but anyway, we now have the blue country as the new major power, replacing the red country, which has now been reduced. Going over to Morocco, we see Morocco continue to expand its land, and Morocco finally gets a coast again. Also, I have no idea what these random rogue pixels are. It's annoying. We see Morocco manage to completely almost kick Portugal off, as we see them also take over Algeria and almost kick Portugal out of Africa, as Morocco has come out of nowhere and just come out of nowhere. And Yucatan has activated an age of conflict, and if we go over to Ecuador, we actually see them unite with a country. I was about to make them unite with the Yucatan, but that wouldn't make any sense. And for now, I don't think I'm going to make them unite with anyone, as it doesn't make sense. We're going over to Sweden. We see Sweden large expand, or we don't. We unfortunately don't see Sweden large expand because of a bug. But going over to Japan, we see Japan split. As I think if I pull up Google Maps, hold on. We see Sakhalin go ahead and rebel from Japan, taking over all the Kuril Islands and this part of land up here. And we also see them go ahead and take this land here, forming this little mini empire. And we also go ahead and see I'm just gonna make them a random capital under the country name, just because I did want, cities. But next, we see Sweden. Oh, for God's sake, no. We see Sweden go ahead and small split, as we actually see Denmark come to life again after a long time of Denmark not existing. Denmark is back with, yeah, there we go. A very tiny Denmark that will get crumpled up in one go. And we go ahead and see California small expand as they begin fighting off the Floridians in Louisiana and Florida. And that was a small expand. That was a lot of land. Going over to Rome, we see Rome small expand, as we see Rome actually manage to retake Tunis from Sinai, as they also managed to push the French out to some extent of Italy. I will go ahead and add some more European cities real quick. Okay, there we go. I've gone and added some European cities. Quite a few of them, although I'm not sure most of them are in the right place, especially over in this area. I just said this area and circled the whole of the continent. I've said the ones like Riga, that's obvious. The ones on the coastline are fine, but it's these ones around here, over here, they might be wrong, but we're just gonna go there, okay? Okay, but it doesn't matter because we're going over to Sumatra, but we're seeing a small split. I think I'm going to see the country of Borneo. They're going to come back. They're going to come back as a nice dark green color. And there we go. They get their independence. And boom, they're back. Then we go over to Greenland. Greenland's founding a religion. Hey, okay. We're gonna get Greenlandism up here, and it's gonna be in. It can't be green though. Okay, we're gonna make it a really, really dark green to, really make it different. Then Ireland. Oh, for God's sake! Ireland had a large expand, but we had the stupid bug. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, going over to Iceland, we see them small expand as they continue their invasion into Greenland. Try to conquer it for some reason. I don't know why. We see Sweden get a large expand. Huh. We see Sweden launch its invasion into Denmark and France as Sweden, launches its invasion. And it takes over Hamburg, as well as taking over all of the German coast, defeating both France, Germany, and Denmark. But speaking of Norway, we see Sweden take over the majority of the Norwegian coast, leaving Norway to basically just Oslo. Do we also see anything else? I guess we see them take a bit more land from France, as Sweden is now, a threat to the French and the Germans. Speaking of the French, we see the French small expand, as we see the French push back in and actually manage to reclaim Hamburg for themselves. And they also push into Germany, hoping to finish it off next time they get the chance to. And going over to California, we see California make a landing in the Yucatan country and take it completely over, creating this exclave. And I guess they just continue to push their land out, I guess. But going over to Nepal, we see Nepal make a small expand where they decide to, what are they going to do? They're in a war with Bangladesh, which I really need to make a different color. Hold on. Let me make Bangladesh. I'll make it like a dark grayish, greenish, bluish color. I don't know what you call that. Turquoise, maybe? Anyway, going on to the Greek Empire, we see the Greek Empire get a large expand. All this delicious. We see the Greek Empire continue to beat off the Horde, pushing in further into Europe. However, we also see them push up here and defeat Rome, taking over Roman Croatia. And we also see them take back Cyprus and push against, what are they called? The Sinaeans down here in the south. As the Greek Empire is continuing its, a new era of expansion. And speaking of expansion, we see that, who is this country going to fight? I think they just re-invade the country that are independent. We go ahead and see Sumatra invade Borneo because they're like, you know what, I don't want you independent. We also see them go ahead and take over all of the Bornean claim of the Papuan Empire. And we're going over to Poland. We see Poland get an expand in which Poland takes out Germany from existence and pushes back Sweden and France. And we also see them push in to Latvia, threatening to take the city of Riga. However, they do not end up taking it. Going over to Ireland, we see Ireland get a large expand, where we see Ireland continue to go ahead and expand their colony down in Brazil. Well, their colony, I mean both of their colonies in Brazil, expanding them, letting this country actually exist freely as they go ahead and form an alliance with the Para country. Moving on, going to the Para, speaking of the Para country, we go ahead and see them large expand, and I can't close this menu, can I? Oh, for God's sake. Okay, wait. I'm going to have to place a city somewhere. Okay, we'll place this random city out there. Okay, I think we should be able to expand. No, we can't. Okay, apparently the game's broken and we can't expand, which is really annoying. I was going to expand them into here. But anyway, moving on. Oh, no. Hello? Okay, the game's broken. I'm going to have to save this. Save 6v1. And I'll be back once I've reloaded this. Okay, well, I've just rejoined and the expanding's working. I saw purple and was like, okay, it might be this country. Turns out I've randomly put the Brazilian nation in there, so hopefully I can fix that up. But anyway, like I said, these two just formed an alliance, so I guess we're just going to see this country, I guess, just go into the Amazon rainforest, as they have expand quite a lot. Yeah, I guess we just see the Para country go ahead and expand itself. Why not? It's at this point where we see, something actually interesting happen, and I kind of just wanted to do this, but the Para country eventually becomes a crown protectorate of the Irish, and I'll be putting them as a similar color. They are like, sort of like a puppet state. It's kind of like late Canada, where it was like, it's under the Irish Empire's protection, but it's technically free to be its own country. It's just, more, the Irish have basically are the only influencing power. But Korea is going to go ahead and be adopting a religion, assuming there's nearby ones. What should they be? I would think that Korea will be Bangladeshism. There we go. And going over to Sweden once this religion map clears. Sweden is going to be large expanding. I think we're going to see them probably wipe Norway off the map, but I have to get rid of all of Norway's random colonies. There we go. I've used a good 60% of Sweden's expansion to just get Greenland out of the way. But going over to here, we see that Norway is wiped off the map by Sweden, as Sweden launches its invasion into Poland, successfully taking over Gdansk, and up here, taking over all of the Polish coastline over here, forming itself a pretty nice Swedish state. Going over to Ethiopia, we see Ethiopia continue to expand its land and try and live, and it also pushes it against the Yemen Empire. Then going up to Rome, we see Rome have a small expand, as we see Rome take back Venice and secure full control over Milan, which I need to colour. They also take away the Adriatic access that the French Empire had. We also see them continue to push down here into Tunisia. Next up, we have Sweden, which is going to split. Oh, okay. Let me go ahead and see the rebellious Danish people rebel from Sweden, obviously. And then we see Denmark just exists as they rebel from Sweden. Going over to Nepal, we see Nepal small expand, as we see Nepal continue to beat the Bangladesh people. Oh my god, okay, Bangladesh is completely eradicated off the map. I'm assuming that's not a Bangladesh picture, that'd be weird, as the Bangladesh have been defeated by Nepal, and to celebrate this, Nepal is going to invade into Myanmar. There we go. Now, going over to Ecuador, we see Ecuador get a small expand, as Ecuador just expands its land, but it also focuses on these road pixels over here, completely eliminating them, which makes me happy. And we go over to Finland. Finland's going to get a medium expand for the first time. We see Finland launch its reinvasion into Poland and a bit into Sweden, as it goes ahead and takes Vilnius. And we also see it launch an invasion into the Horde, as Finland is expanding its influence into Russia. And going over to Poland, we see Poland get a large expand as Poland beats back Sweden and takes back all the land it just recently had lost. And we also see it invade into the Horde, kicking the Horde out of Budapest and leave, pushing the Horde out of Central Europe, as Poland becomes a pretty huge empire. And the Horde threatens to take, Poland threatens to take Kyiv from the Horde. But up here we see Poland decisively beat Finland, as Poland expands its influence north and becoming one of the new major powers. Like, look at that. Berlin, Warsaw, Vilnius, Lviv, Budapest, Vienna, Riga, all under Polish control. That's pretty nice to see. You never really get to see a big Poland in many things, because it's kind of like in Central Europe, which is always super small on these world maps, so Poland could get wiped out in like one turn. We're going over to Tibet. We see a medium expand as Tibet invades into Nepal, as Nepal took its land ages ago. And we see the Iraqi Empire large expand, as we see Iraq launch its invasion into the Horde, as it threatens the Horde capital. However, it can't go too far. Where it can go is up here, as the Iraqi Empire expands up into Central Asia quite nicely. Then over to the Delhi Sultanate, we see a large expand from the Delhi Sultanate, as the Delhi Sultanate launches its invasion into Nepal, actually managing to take Dhaka and most of the Bangladeshi region away from the Nepalese. Moving on, we go to Nepal. Again, when Nepal gets a large expand, and we see Nepal fight back against the Sultanate, as Nepal actually makes good gains against the Sultanate, invading like the eastern part of it, as the Nepalese Empire becomes pretty actually large. Like, it's actually a decently sized country that could actually pose as a real power. But going over to Sinai, we get the Age of Conflict, the next 30 turns, which is nice to see. And hold on, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Age of Conflict. There's not really a reason I turn the Age of Conflict down. Like, I'm kind of liking the pace we're going at. But anyway, we see the red country get a medium expand. We see the red country take on the blue country and win, as they reclaim a good portion of their lost land, consolidating their capital. And going over to Florida, not from far, we see Florida fight a war against California, as they go ahead and manage to take back the Yucatan and this area over here around Louisiana. As we also see them defeat the Portuguese in a war, taking back Hispaniola and these islands, as well as expanding their influence down here. Also, can I just say that Florida is a mountaineer? Where are their mountains? Florida is going to absolutely struggle to expand because they're expanding into flat land, which is going to cost them a lot. And we go ahead and see this irrelevant Baffin country get a large expand and I guess just take over the island of Baffin or whatever. And they take over the whole island, I guess. So they go ahead and become this weird looking country up here that has all these random giant islands. Going over to the Portuguese Empire, we see them get a medium expand as we see them take back Algeria from the Moroccans and fight back, taking over a good portion from Africa and even taking back the Moroccan capital. However, this has not stopped the Moroccans from continuing to fight. Going over to Sri Lanka, we see Sri Lanka medium expand as we actually see them go ahead and do something that nobody has done, and they actually go ahead and take over the northern part of Madagascar. And they know that they can't take the Delhi Sultanate on, so they're kind of evolving into a trade empire, and they're kind of like trying to colonize in a way. Like, they're trying to set up trade hubs everywhere where they can extract rich resources, and they're profiting off here. Because like, if you want trade, like, you got to go down here. So like, if they can control down here, then they're gonna get rich, and that's their main aim. To Para, we see them unionize. That's a problem. I can't redo that. Go over to the Greece. We see the No, the Greece have been scammed of their large expand, bro. Who did that? Why are the Greeks making their own religion? What? Greekism. What even happened? Apparently the Greeks made their own religion. Okay, whatever. The Greeks have rebranded. Anyway, moving on to Tibet. We see Tibet small expand. They continue to go ahead and invade into the hilly areas of Nepal, as Nepal is almost kicked out of Nepal entirely, and Tibet actually manages to reach the coastline down here. So they continue threatening Kathmandu. Look at this huge Tibet. This is so fun to see. Anyway, going over to Rome, we see Rome medium expand, as we see Rome actually take back Marseille and the Alps, as we also see them go ahead and take back Tripoli from Sinai and continue expanding their land into Africa. Going over to Sweden, we see them get a new leader, and to the Caucasus Sword, we see them small expand, as we see the Caucasus push the Polish back, taking back Lviv. And we also see them push back the Iraqi Empire to some extent, although the influence of the Caucasus Horde is slowly diminishing. Going over to the French Empire, we see them adopt a religion. However, I will just probably make them Muslim, because also, I just realized Kievism doesn't exist, but Kievism does, and it's just a Scandinavian religion, which is funny. Or Scandinavian religion is just all Sweden or whatever. We go ahead and see Greenland want to try and split, and I say to that, no, you're too small. But going over to Sinai, we see them declare their new origin. Okay, I think they were originally Roman origin, and now they're like, hell no, we're our own culture, screw you. Okay, we see Baffin split, but no we don't, because I don't want to. We go ahead and see Papau declare that they're their own origin, even though they were to begin with. Then we go over to the Han Dynasty, which, once this loads in, Oh, there we go. We see them. Oh, we see the Han Dynasty large expand. No, what? Okay. We don't see the Han Dynasty large expand. We see the Wu Dynasty large expand as they kill the Han Dynasty. And we see them push down here against Sumatra as they defeat Sumatra, gaining access down here to what ocean is this? The Indian Ocean, but technically it's the Sri Lankan Ocean. The Sri Lankan Ocean, as the Wu Dynasty is probably maybe the strongest country, or at least one of the top 3 powers in the world. But going over to the Caucasus Horde, we then found their own religion, and it's going to be Hordism, as this is a brand new religion, which I will be making a nice bright yellow. We go over to Portugal, where we see Portugal spawn expand, as we see. Oh no, we don't apparently, because fuck's sake, the stupid game. Okay, going over to Germany, that exists for some reason. Where does Germany exist? Right here. Oh my god, bro. We see Germany appear out of nowhere, and the German revolt arises in many countries as Germany basically decides it wants to exist again, as Germany reclaims a lot of territory, including Vienna, and Germany's basically back in the game now. And they even go ahead and take Gdansk from Poland, which PMO, bro. And there we go, just like that. Just like I said, Poland has lost half its land, and Germany's back, and the French Empire looks like it's crumbling. Although technically not, but like there's not really any colonial powers. Like, who's got colonies? Ireland, that's it. Like, Europeans might need to start killing the Americans. So speaking of the Americans, we go ahead and see a split happen as for the 1000th time we see the return of Hispaniola. As Hispaniola comes back, but this time they go ahead and take a significant portion of Floridian territory, including some of their colonies down here, as yeah, there you go. Hispaniola becomes pretty big. And I should probably give them like this color. There we go. We see Hispaniola come back from Florida. Going over to Sweden, we see Sweden enter medium expand, as we see Sweden launch an invasion into Germany as they go ahead and take the Gdansk region from them after defeating them in a war. And we also see them go ahead and defeat Denmark once again. And we also see them launch an invasion into Iceland and go ahead and take over the island, forcing Iceland to flee to Greenland, which the Swedish will slowly begin to conquer, although I don't know how much they'll do. Then going over to Florida, we see Florida split again as we go ahead and see the Yucatan country come back after short-lived conquering. And I should just be able to do most of it. And they only hold this land here, which is one Central American country, but I can't remember which one. But going over to Sweden, we see Sweden medium expand, as we see Sweden fight Germany again as they manage to take Hamburg and all their coastline. Germany is pretty crippled. And we also go ahead and say Sweden take these islands or purchase these islands. However, Sweden continues its invasion over here into Greenland just for the fun of it, if you ask me. As Sweden now becomes the Swedish Empire, as Finland has probably been surpassed by Sweden in terms of power, and Finland should probably fear for its own invasion and conquering by Sweden. Over to Ecuador, we see Ecuador get a large expand as they expand heavily into the rainforest and become a pretty sizable country in the region, and they're a flatlander, so I'll leave them to that. And we see Rome get a large expand. Oh my god. We see Rome go ahead and fight off against the Sinai country, taking over a large part of Africa. However, we also see them inflict a decisive victory against France, conquering a lot of southern France. And we also see them go ahead and defeat the Greeks, taking over Tehran and threatening core Greek provinces, including the capital of Athens, which is pretty scary for the Greek Empire, as Rome is here, and Rome is not messing up. Next we go over to Korea, where we see Korea split. And you know what we're making? We're getting North and South Korea. And while there technically is a Korean peninsula, North Korea is actually just not going to be everything that's not Korea. Oh my god. What is the ugliest thing I've seen? Hold on. No, it doesn't matter. We see Germany have a small split, as for the first time in this civilization, we go ahead and see Austria go ahead and exist as a country, or mainly just a blob over here. And go over to Greece, we see Greece split, as over here we see the Crimean rebels go ahead and revolt up and declare themselves that Korea is not Korea, not Korea. Crimea is now in the game, and they bring themselves up to the border of Moldova. And there we go. The Greeks are slowly losing their newly gained land. Next, we go over to the Lime country, which decides to unite the country. As we see the Lime country and Baffin go ahead and unite together, as the Lime country becomes one of the biggest countries on the map, although most of its land is terrible. And we see Iceland try and split, but I say no. Next, we go ahead and see Sinai large expand. As we see Sinai continue. Actually, we see Sinai go ahead and launch their invasion into the Yemen country. And they take over, well, this land, which I think is called Yemen land. As they take land from their really weak neighbor, because Yemen's really quite weak. We also see them go ahead and defeat the Greeks in a war and push up the Greek border yet again and take over Cyprus for the 1,000th time. Next, we go to the Hispaniolan Empire, which, oh my god, why is it this thing? Lol. It's funny. We don't see them do anything, really. Next, we go to the Portuguese Empire, which continues their, like, suppression of the Moroccans, in which they have suppressed them, although they still exist, which is annoying. We go over to North Korea, which finally gets a medium expand. Well, finally, which gets a medium expand. So there we go. We now have North Korea and South Korea, which looks something like this. Of North Korea expands its land up in the north, and South Korea is left pretty weak. Yeah. Should I add Pyongyang? I have no idea where Pyongyang is, but it's going here. There we go. We see Pyongyang, and we also need to see Seoul, which I don't know where that is either, but I'm just going to put it in there. There we go. Here we go to Hispaniola. We see them get a large expand as they fight a decisive war against Florida and take over Cuba and the Bahamas. And we also see them defeat the Portuguese and take over a good portion of Portuguese Colombia. And look at that, Hispaniola is back on the rise. We see them officially announce they are now the Hispaniolan Empire. Next we go over to Sinai, which gets a large expand, as we see Sinai decisively defeat the Greeks. And we see Sinai, for the first time ever, go ahead and reach Black Sea, as the Greek influence is slowly squashed. And we also see Sinai defeat the Romans, taking back Tripoli. We also see them continue to defeat the Yemenis, the Yemen Empire, basically, down here. Look at this. Look at this beautiful Sinai Empire. Don't get confused with Egypt. This is Sinai, and it's now the Sinai Empire. And this is definitely the height of the Sinai country, as it might be the biggest country in the region. I think it is. Actually, it's the biggest country in the region. And it could be a threat to Europe, although I don't know how much it will be. Maybe a threat to the Mediterranean. It's definitely the biggest country around the Mediterranean. But next we're going into the Caucasus Sword, which gets a medium expand as the Caucasus Sword takes advantage of this newly created Crimea, as it basically takes it over, apart from rogue pixels. Going over to Germany, they declare that they're a new Germany, apparently. But that doesn't matter, because we're going over to North Korea once it loads. And we see that North Korea gets a medium expand as North Korea goes ahead and defeats defeats South Korea, and they begin their invasion of lands. And now we go ahead and see that Korea declares itself as the Korean Knights. No, that's a terrible name. The Korean Shogunate. The Korean. We go ahead and see Korea declares itself as the Korean Desh after Bangladesh, as this is like a sultanate, right? But it's Bangladeshi, so it's the Korean Desh. There we go, the new Korea. We go ahead and see the Delhi Sultanate adopt a religion, as they have to be Muslim. Like, actually no, I can't. Wait, they shouldn't be a sultanate. Hold on, they're gonna adopt Bangladeshism and be the Delhi Desh. Well, that's such a cool name, NGL. I don't want to be on faith mode. Can we go political mode? Thanks. There we go. It's now the Delhi Desh after Bangladesh. Next we go over to the French Empire, which will get a large expand as France pushes back Rome in a decisive war. Also launches its re-invasion into Germany, taking out Munich, as well as over here, as they take the Alps from Rome, pushing further in here, threatening to take Vienna and Berlin. The French Empire is back in Europe. Going over to Sri Lanka, we see them get a large expand. As we go ahead and see Sri Lanka basically begin its invasion. Not invasion, I mean, its colonization of Africa. As Sri Lanka makes multiple colonies down here, claiming good portions of land. Go over to Japan, we see them get a small expand as Japan takes back the Coral Islands and tries to take back all this land, although I'm assuming that they won't be able to take it, annoyingly. Actually, I think they actually do go ahead and take back all this land, which is actually pretty cool to see that we have just enough. They also go ahead and take back some of these islands, as well as expanding their islands over here for some reason. But there we go, there's Japan. Going over to the Irish Empire, we see them activate the Age of Conflict for the last 15 turns, well the next 30, but the last 15 for here. We see Iceland medium expand as we see Iceland re-invade their country and reconquer it, kicking Sweden out, and also trying to kick Sweden out of Greenland, which they declare is theirs. It doesn't matter because we're going back over to Sri Lanka, which declares its new origin, although it already had its own origin, but whatever. But this is why we go over to Germany, that is large expanding, as we see Germany go ahead and decisively defeat, well, the Austrians and the French, as well as Sweden, declaring the brand new German Empire. The German Empire rises from the ashes, the mountaineers themselves, as Germany now threatens the power balance in Europe. But going over to Nepal, we see Nepal large expand as we go ahead and see Nepal kick in to the mountains, which I'm assuming they're a flatlander by how quick this large expand is gone. We also see them launch many invasions into the Delhi Desh. Are they flatlanders? I'm assuming. No, they're hill dwellers actually, whatever. But we go over to Austria, which medium expands, and Austria comes back from the dead and actually manages to take Zagreb as well, as we see a pretty big Austria begin to appear. By going over to Sinai, we see Sinai small expand, as we see Sinai actually manage to take Crete from the Greeks and take even more of the Turkish land, even taking Ankara, threatening the Holy Greek land. But we also see them continue to beat up Rome. And it looks like this is the end for the Greeks, being honest. If we go over to Brunei, we see them medium expand, we see them take this land and they push out the Sumatrans off of Borneo, as they where else do they go? We see them start a war with the Papuans as they go ahead and take over a good part of that island. And Greenland wants to split, but I'm not letting it. And to turn 594, we go over to Germany that wants to split, and we go ahead and see we go ahead and see Hanover declare independence, wanting nothing with Germany, as yeah, that's not Hanover, but you know, whatever, I don't care. Next we go over to Japan, which has a small expand as they begin their invasion back into this country up here, as they actually managed to go ahead and take over the whole country, as the Japanese Empire is finally back to what it was like ages ago. But next we're going over to the German Empire, which is splitting again. Nobody wants to be part of this brand new Germany, as we go ahead and see Bavaria go ahead and split a nice dark blue country down here, as yeah, we see Bavaria declare its independence, and now Europe looks like a mess. We're going over to Portugal, we see them get a new leader, and we see the Yucatan country go ahead and medium expand as they fight off both California and this country down here, as they even launch their invasion of Cuba and go ahead and take the whole island from Hispaniola and continue to be a foil in their land. And then we go ahead and see the Yucatan basically come back from nothing. And then we go over to Nepal, which decides to large expand, as we see Nepal continue to beat up the Delhi Desh, as well as also invading into Tibet, cutting off their ocean axis, as we go ahead and see Nepal's rise to glory, as we see now the Nepal Empire spanned vastly across Bangladesh and India and Nepal and Tibet. Finally, to end this, we see California get a large expand, as we see California invade the Yucatan country, take over Cuba, and completely wipe them off the map as the Californian country enters South America. We also see them go ahead and take Louisiana from Florida, as the Californian Empire has now conquered all of Central America. And that is going to do it for this episode of Doodle Empire's alternate civilization. And in terms of power ranking, I think number 1 is still going to go to California. However, number 2 is going to go over to the new Eastern power, the Wu Dynasty, which has conquered most of the important part of China. But I guess up here is important. I mean, obviously, like, Tibet is huge. Tibet's bigger, not the same size as Wu. If Wu gets unity, I'm uniting it with this, and we're forming the Wu Empire. But yeah, they've taken like Thailand, northern Vietnam, Bangkok. They've taken all the Philippines, Taiwan, all this important land. Pretty strong. Deserving the number 2. I think number 3 would have to go to the Sinai Empire. While most European powers have fallen, like Germany, France to some extent. Rome had its moment, but then it kind of lost its moment. Greece definitely gone. The Horde actually probably gained from this because of Crimea. Yeah, definitely number 3. Then number 4, I don't really know. There's not really beyond that. Actually, number 4 would have to go to the Iraqi Empire. Then number 5, I'd probably end up giving to probably Portugal, just because they're still quite a strong country, or maybe actually probably Sweden or Finland. Still both number 5 would probably be a tie between like Finland, Sweden, France. Like there isn't really a number 5. Number 5 is probably the European powers. This is a whole, like France, Ireland, Portugal, Sweden, Finland. They're all decent powers, but the other 4 are high above those powers and the power empires. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Hope you enjoyed.